Welcome back, guys. All right, here we are. So what's up, man? Where do we leave off?
Yeah, sorry about that interruption. I'm not even really sure. It's so much fun to talk to. It's hard to keep really track of the subject. What I really wanted to say about the nutrition stuff is that it's all personalized. It's all about you, what your goals are, what you want to achieve, and the path is different for everybody. Everybody's going to have a different, number of calories that they should or shouldn't be eating every day. Everybody's going to have a different proportion of their meal that's going to be protein versus carbs versus fats. Some people are not going to be eating carbs. Some people are not going to be eating fats. Some people don't necessarily want to be eating protein. So there's a different thing for everybody. And I think that people need to, consider their goals and then find the most fitting thing, because there's no, like with many things in life, right? There's not like a turnkey solution, like do this one thing and that's going to solve it,
Right. Yeah. Everyone is different. That's kind of how I feel about controversial or not. That's how I feel about like the educational system. I mean, people learn in different ways, and there's some people that really just aren't dumb, but they just can't learn in a certain way that they're being taught. Because, for example, I think with math, a lot of times, I think people might have problems with math because they didn't do the work. Like, you know how when you're a kid, they told you to show your work and obviously not use like a calculator for your homework.
Don't use your head. Use this paper and a pencil. What are you talking about? I'm going to use my head. Anyway, continue.
I feel like some people just learn in different ways, and maybe if they don't do it the way that they were taught and then later on they need to learn, it doesn't mean that they're dumb. They just have certain ways of learning. And that's the same thing with health, man. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person, piece of shit person, or like a disgusting person because you're too skinny, too fat. You don't need to hate yourself. Emotions and energy, I believe, fully transfer into this material realm, whether you want to call it magic or even, for example, when you're stressed, the stress creates I forget what it's called, but something inside of you.
It's called cortisol.
There's a whole juice blend that gets excreted into your blood when you get stressed, and none of those things are really beneficial to the situation. You're totally right, and especially these weight loss journeys or like body transformation journeys, whatever goal you have. It's gonna be hard, and many people get frustrated along the way, and that's the worst thing that you can do. That's literally the worst thing you can do. You're no closer to your goal, and now you're angry with yourself. So it's like double losing. There's no point at all. So when you see yourself being frustrated with yourself, it's important to catch yourself and readjust, reassess targets, re-aim, and with that, I just wanted to kind of mention that recently we had the Super Bowl, and being European, I have friends in Europe that absolutely don't care about American football or the NFL.
Naturally. But they might wear the jerseys or the hats, right? Because I see sometimes in Europe, man, whether it be Denmark or other places, where they'll be wearing like a Broncos or like a Bruins jersey or something like that.
Hey, swag is swag, certain things can't be denied, regardless of what team it is, But yeah, we were talking, and he's actually a business guy as well. Like he does a bunch of stuff. Maybe we could have him on as a guest as well. I think he used to play for a while, but he was really fascinated by the ads. He told me that he saw like a Reddit thread where he saw all the ads, and we were kind of talking about this, and it is insane, right? Because there are plenty of people and I remember being in like high school, kind of being the foreign kid. I never really understood American football. Like, I barely get it now, but I was just never really interested. I was never interested in watching sports on TV at all, right? But I do remember in middle school and in high school, I would watch the Super Bowl specifically for the ads, right?
Same.
And it's like kind of a common thing. Many people have done that. And so me and this buddy, we came to the conclusion that capitalism actually won the Super Bowl, because plenty of people plenty of people watched the Super Bowl, but didn't care about the game. They just wanted the ads.
Dang, dude. You just blew my mind, because going back to childhood, that you're totally right. Like, I didn't really ever care about football. Now I care even less. But throughout time, even though I didn't watch this Super Bowl, throughout time, people that you work with, you go to school with, it's like a talking point around it. People just watch for the commercials. And that's such an interesting way to put it, man. But it's so true, because like, you know, I couldn't tell you who the winner was of maybe 5 years ago, but I could tell you the funny commercial that's trying to sell me something. Wow. That's really interesting.
It's so insidious. The way that commercials have like just predominated all media, and we've become so consumed with media, and the advertisements dominate the media so much.
Yeah, they really do. And one thing, before I forget, I'm just going to throw this out there. I think we have to be careful about worshiping corporations. I think what I'm kind of in fear of with America is that we're becoming too kind of putting corporations on a god status. Like, we worship emblems, symbols of like Nike or, you know, Newport cigarettes. It's the Nike swoop backwards. We're kind of like ran subconsciously by like symbols and stuff like that. And I really urge caution, people like giving corporations like equal rights like as individuals, or like just the way that corporations influence political stuff through donations, or the fact that they exploit things like the double Irish loophole to avoid taxes, when, you know, those billions of dollars from a corporation could really go into the infrastructure of America. So I think we got to be really, really, really careful about the direction we're taking, where we're almost worshiping the corporatization of America. And be careful what you ask for, because look at what the corporations view the people as. They view us as zeros and ones. And that's not like some sort of like dark thing. It's just the truth when it comes to business. If they bought you, then they win. And if they didn't get you, then they lose, and they try to figure out how to get you.
Yeah, you're totally right with the corporatization, and the corporatization of whatever is never good, man. The like movie adaptations of video games, they always thought that the movie, which is the corporatization, was going to do so much better. You remember those freaking Tomb Raider movies? They got nothing on the video games. The video games is such like a better form of entertainment, right? But these corporate huge entities like just think that they can throw enough money at it and make it more successful.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of the problem with like becoming too SJW, like too politically correct, because, or like having, you know, for example, something that I just found out within the past like 2 or 3 years, I think from South Park, they had an episode about it, is that China has an influence on Hollywood like movies and like the NBA and stuff like that. So like what we see here and what we're allowed to experience here, there is follow the money trail, and there's like an influence. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah. It is insane.
So with commercials, I don't watch TV more for like years. I stopped years ago once I kind of started diving down the rabbit hole. But I could never take commercials. But now I really cannot. It's like, you know, like Fogwa, like when Goose gets like force fed. I really get the sensation in my body like Fogwa. Like every 15 minutes there's a commercial. Every 10 minutes there's a commercial on TV. And honestly, now on YouTube, it's almost it is oftentimes worse. What do you think about people that fall asleep with a TV on? Do you do that yourself? And then I'll tell you about my feeling.
So yes, I do it when I do it stressed or when I'm feeling lonely. It's nice to kind of like have this distraction while you're falling asleep. Obviously, if you're sleeping next to somebody, like I don't feel that need for the distraction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely fall asleep to podcasts sometimes. I have like a subgenre of podcasts that I only listen to when I'm falling asleep, and it's usually like paranormal activity and alien.
Oh no.
Yeah. But it's definitely not doing great things for the quality of the sleep. But I think that it's a good tool to kind of distract yourself, to let your mind go. as you fade to sleep.
Now, I would agree that it's a good tool to help you fall asleep, because when I was younger, I would always fall asleep with TV on, watch G4, Attack of the Show, Attack of the Show with Olivia Munn's sexy ass.
Hell
and
yeah. How could you fall asleep? How could you even fall asleep?
Well, that was after several sessions of beating off. God. But yeah, man. I remember, this is kind of weird, but I remember in my loft, you know what a loft bed is, right? It's like a bunk bed without the bottom bunk.
Right.
I remember the first time as like a kid, like transitioning from shooting blanks, like from beating off to like one day or one night, just all of a sudden, like just jizz. I'm like, oh my God, like, yes.
And that's fucking insane. I remember that too. I also figured out before my body figured out coming. And I remember that there is that transition where like all of a sudden you just jizz it up. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah.
It's almost like if your dick was on like a high speed railway and then like it gets caught up. It's like it stops and then like rubber bands back for a second and then shoots forward and then rubber bands back. But so all right, so I used to fall asleep with the TV on, but now I'm 100% on my opinion that it is unhealthy to fall asleep with the TV on for multiple reasons. One, the obvious physical distraction. Your brain gets into different states of sleep, like different waves, delta or something like that. REM.
There's different stages of sleep, and these different stages of sleep are determined by the wave functions that your brain is producing. So your brain has a shit ton of electrical activity. These neurons, right, are like electric circuits. And you can measure that electricity's waveform. You don't get anything specific, but you get kind of an average of all the electrical activity. And it has kind of these two patterns. One of them is like high frequency disorganized waves. So some of them are really big, some of them are really tiny. And then it has the deep sleep, which is, I believe it's the non-REM sleep, or it is the REM sleep. I'm not sure on the details, but the point is there's different waveforms, and the waveform that it's like high amplitude, low frequency waves basically means that most of your brain is actually firing in a synchronized manner, right? Because those waves are an average of all the electrical activity. And if all of the electrical activity kind of comes at this similar frequency and high amplitude, that means that many of the cells are kind of like in these synchronized waves of sleep. And then there's less synchronized phases where the frequency of waves, I believe, gets lower and the amplitude is also lower. And the waves just look disorganized, like there's all these little bumps because each part is firing at a different time, right?
Interesting. Yeah, the brain is so weird, and it's so interesting too how it's all electrical. Like, especially being like an electrician, it's weird to think how our experience in reality is oftentimes all electrical impulses from the brain.
All your sensations, your neurons and your nerves are just wires that deliver a signal to contract, or that deliver a signal back to the brain saying hot or sharp or, whatever.
Yeah. So, okay. So real quick, the whole TV thing, I have personally fallen asleep listening to not knowing, but like maybe my mom was on a phone call in the room, or maybe I was in a car with someone and they were listening to a radio station, one of those morning talk show personalities. And I'll dream about something and then wake up and they'll be talking about that same thing. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Or like, I don't watch TV, but sometimes I will fall asleep listening to Rogan podcasts. Probably not healthy. I try not to do it. I'll usually like pause it now and when I'm like just about to fall asleep, and then just fall asleep like that. But there's no commercials. So my thing with falling asleep with the TV on, and I just told this girl recently she really needs to stop. And I was like being serious about it. Like, hey, I'm not like, you should really stop doing that, because the thing is your brain is still listening. And when you're asleep and you're listening to something, I don't think that you could be fully asleep, for one, fully rested. And two, also think about the subconscious effect that has to have. Keep in mind, we call it subconscious because it's not on our conscious. It's things that we don't always consciously think about. So it's hard to kind of put this into a tangible number or something like that, but it really is not far-fetched to see.
No, definitely. I'm not sure how you would measure this. I'm not sure really tell whatever, but I definitely believe that there's some programming that's going on when you do this. It's probably not really tangible, but definitely I fully agree that there is some like programming going on, and that's like awful. Yeah, I wouldn't want to like wake up from a dream thinking I need a used Honda. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not especially when you think about how people that design commercials or corporations, once again, they're trying to get to you, are using the most effective ways, whether it be through humor, whether it be through a refresh rate, whether even it be through the fact that the TV alone, I don't know about flat screens now, but TV alone puts your brain, without even being on a certain channel, if you just turn on the TV, that like thing that you hear, that or that you used to hear, that's a certain frequency of putting your brain in a state of like,
it's Pavlovian. You hear it, you react, right?
Yeah, in a way, like you're zoned out, but you're absorbing what's coming to you. So I don't like the idea of people who are just trying to look at you as numbers. I don't like the idea of you and your most vulnerable, which is when you sleep. Which, by the way, we were talking about the paranormal earlier, and I wanted to ask you if you've ever experienced shadow people or anything paranormal, UFOs or anything like that, like sleep paralysis. But no. Yeah, your mind is like almost the most vulnerable when you're asleep. So
I would say that your mind is most vulnerable when it's going between sleep and awake. That would be my analytic, scientific, having studied this shit brain would kind of, force me to interrupt you there. And that's, again, my belief. I also haven't done much specific research about, this stuff. This isn't exactly my area of interest of medicine. I still had to study it. I still have to know about it. But this isn't exactly what I'm into. Fuck, I forgot where that was going. What an asshole. I just remembered that I wanted to correct you. What a dick.
Well, I do that all the time. Honestly, I'd like to actually probably restate that, because I think your most vulnerable point is when you're conscious. Honestly, that's when you're most influential. Someone tells you, when people talk shit about someone else to you, that's when like you start to feel something, or like, oh, this person does this or has this. Even if it's not true, that's when you're actually your most vulnerable.
Yeah, you're so right.
But we were talking about like sleep paralysis or shadow people, or have you ever seen anything weird?
No. When I first moved to the States, we moved to like a very old house, like almost a historic home. Like it was really, really old. We tried to do some repairs, and the city told us that we had to like do them in a specific way. I was pretty sure it was haunted, but nothing crazy ever happened where like I saw a ghost or something. You would hear like floorboards creak that sounded like somebody walking, but there was never any specific event that like made it seem like we're screwed. Like, there's a real freaking ghost here. That never really happened. I've had some like weird things when we went camping that like could maybe be UFOs, but never anything like, again, super like convincing, super like, wow, that's probably what it is. I haven't really brushed that paranormal side of life too much. How about yourself?
Gotcha. Always interested back when there was dial-up days, and I had the gateway computer back probably around 2000. Like, I would always look up these like websites on ghost stories, and like those pictures you see like girls walking in the graveyard, or like UFO stuff. And I had this like interest in it, like Loch Ness Monster always interests me. And even back as a kid, I always logically thought that it's probably real, and it was probably just like an animal that had not gone extinct, that lived deep down. We can't see through water, so we don't know what's at the deepest levels. And just like humans, what if there's an animal that, we can't go down but so deep, and we can't come up but so deep, or you'll get what's called the bends, and you could seriously hurt yourself if you try to come up too quickly. So, I mean, certain things like that, I could see how it could be practical or possible.
Just as a quick note, I was convinced probably around that same age that vampires exist. I was totally sold on vampires, and I was too young for the whole like romance side of it. I just thought it was freaking amazing that somebody could like, drain your blood and become younger. I thought that was like crazy life. Cool. Exactly. And so
Drain gang, baby.
Drain gang. We get the drip drop drippers, but what I wanted to say was, funnily enough, I was also totally like not like obsessed, but convinced that like, no, you're like, obviously they've evaded history through hundreds of years because some of them live to be thousands of years old.
Let me ask you about this then. Have you ever tied that together with one of two things? One theory is, the first one is not my own. The second one I kind of thought of like without anyone influencing me. So the first theory, have you heard of like Elizabeth Bathory that used to bathe in the blood of like 80, like she killed like 200 or like 80 virgin girls, probably young as fuck. And she would hang them above her bath and like slit their throats and have them drain blood into her bath. So that's one person. And apparently, Google this. Apparently, allegedly, there's some sort of, or maybe some sort of connection to her in the bloodline of George Bush and the Queen of England, one of the two.
Wow.
I know the Queen of England said that Muhammad was one of her ancestors. So that's really interesting, right? When you look at like bloodlines, I've heard of stuff talking about how Obama and the Bushes are like going back bloodlines. There's even something about George Bush being related to Vlad the Impaler, which was the second person I was going to bring up as far as the idea of vampirism. Real quick, before you address that, I'll say my second thing that I was going to say about vampirism is I thought about how, like, if you look at what war as an economic strategy is, now I'm not talking about self-defense, it's converting blood into money, and money is power and energy. So a few years ago, I started to look at what war, the industry of war, not self-defense, but what the actual industry financially of war is vampirism. Because not only are you killing, like draining other people's blood and converting that to energy to kind of have like an eternal life in a sense through power being money, but also you're sending young 18-year-olds to die for things that are oftentimes we're lied to about. So that's kind of how I look at like vampires in a way, or people that like drain your energy. But yeah, I know that was a lot, but that's kind of like my ideas on vampirism.
I don't know. This vampirism thing was like a much bigger deal when I was pretty little. Around the time that those like stories for girls with Edward, what's his face? I keep wanting to call him
not Edward Snowden.
Yeah.
Edward, was it Edward Cullen or Edward?
Cullen was the family name. But when those came out, I kind of distanced myself from it because now it was for girls. And vampires.
Not to mention the dude's like 600 years old, going back to a high school and hooking up with a high school chick.
Exactly. So once the like I said, I was into this like vampire stuff very young. And once I became older and I realized that there's this kind of like romantic association with vampires, it became not nearly as cool. I wanted the like cool 7,000-year-old fucking dude who does like blood magic. There's a really great game that I would highly recommend to you called Vampire Bloodlines: The Masquerade. It came out in like 2004. Okay. It's an RPG single player, so it's offline. And I just highly recommend this. It's a very fun game. We can talk about it off air sometime. But
yeah, I just saved it right now.
Beautiful.
So just to answer your earlier question, I know if people I know the listeners have most likely heard me talk about this real quick, so I'll just make it brief. I've always had an interest in the paranormal. Once I got to, I'm 27 now, probably once I got to, I don't know, say 16 or something like that, 15, I might have started questioning it. Like, it's kind of rebellious naturally as a teenager. I'm like, okay, well, why is there no, like, why are people saying all this stuff? Why have I never seen a ghost? Why have I like kind of wanted to, but never have? But then One night all right, I don't know which story happened first, but one night I was staying over at a buddy's house, and he was having like a going away kind of small get together because his house, he was about to be moving, and there was, at this point, he went to bed. His older brother was getting in the shower. There's this other kid on the other side of the couch because it was a U-shaped couch, and I was on the other side of the U-shaped couch. His brother's taking a shower. I fell asleep. We were listening to music, or whatever. I wake up with this sensation, and everything's dark, so his brother must have been out of the shower. I wake up with the sensation like someone's standing next to me, and like I didn't know if it was someone trying to like run my pockets like while I was sleeping. That's honestly what I thought, or I thought maybe it was a dream. So I just remember like, you know, being an arrogant teenager, being like, all right, you know, nothing's gonna hurt you. Just like count to 3 in your head. When you get to 3, just pop up, you know, catch it by surprise or whatever. And I do that in my head. 1, 2, 3, stand up. And like before I even stand up, I can still see it in my peripherals. There's a shadow person right next to me, a foot away from me, like staring at me. And I stand face to face with this thing. And it was taller than me. It was like 6 foot something. And it's interesting because I'll listen to stories now of people talking about this. I wasn't really into it in the past because I never experienced it. Like I said, I was skeptical. At a certain point, I started to lose my faith in the paranormal. But then one of us said, and I don't know who, but I will eat your soul. And at that point, it disappeared. And I guess quotation marks, I wake up. And when I wake up, I wake up standing up in the same position. I swear to God, in the same position. So if this was a dream, then this was me sleepwalking, which I don't do. So this was just a rare thing. That's the only paranormal experience that I can share. I've stayed on multiple haunted hotels. The Queen Mary, which is a haunted cruise ship. I stayed there when I was 11 with my mom for a couple of nights because we love the idea of ghosts. But man, you know. And so that was that experience. So that was one thing where I was like, okay, maybe there is a little bit more to things that we don't know. And then
but the reality is X-Files. I want to believe. Continue. Sorry.
Right. Okay, so that was weird. You could say maybe that was a dream. I could understand that. Now, this next 2 things are probably gonna be a little bit harder for people to accept because it would be hard for me to accept. Even to this point, when people tell me that they've seen a UFO, I don't believe them. Maybe it's trust issues, or maybe I do believe them, but in the back of my head, I have doubt because it's so hard to believe people because people lie. But the first time I was like about to fuck this girl, and I was going in my car to get a condom out of my 99 Ford Ranger at the time, and I like look up at the sky. Yeah. I look up at the sky and like how beautiful it is, and then I see a shooting star, dude, and it shoots and then it stops, and then I get like hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and I'm like, oh my God. And then it takes off like maybe a second later, like it like shot, paused, and then took off. It was fucking insane.
Jesus.
So that started to change my mind into what shooting stars may be. Maybe it's when something's traveling faster than the speed of light, and then it essentially puts on its brakes. That's what potentially you see. So, or at least sometimes.
That's very fair. That's a good assessment. Yeah.
So that was the only time I've ever seen anything like that. The second time, it's hard to believe, but I was with 2 of my buddies. One of them I'd like to actually get on the show so he could like verify this and share his experience. But we were at a park, and we were about to leave, and because the sun was like not down, but it was like going down. There's still sun in the sky, and it's kind of an overcast day. And when we were leaving, I look up at the sky because I love nature, and I see like 5 or 7 like white lights, like in a flying V formation, like Mighty Ducks, like sideways V. I tap on both of my buddies' shoulders simultaneously because I'm in the middle. Yeah, I tap on their shoulders and like point for them to look up. We all just stand there looking at this thing moving silently, and like it was hard to determine if it was like 5 individual crafts, like individual lights, or if it was one craft.
And was it really high up, or was it kind of close?
It was so hard to tell, man, because it was like gray. The whole sky was gray. And that's why I don't know if it was one massive thing up there above the clouds from what we could see, or if it was multiple. But, you know, that's my only 2 experiences with the paranormal. So I don't doubt anyone, but I have a hard time listening to like ghost stories or anything like that because it's convoluted with bullshit like, you know, those shows on TV or like, I don't know, voice boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's 80% of the claims can like very easily, very quickly be like ruled out by a rational thinking person, by just simply a person who doesn't want aliens there. 80% of these stories can very quickly be discredited. You know what I mean? But there are those few. There are those few that we can't explain. There's those few that the military can't explain. There's the few that governments can't explain,
Like Commander David Favor, that was on the Rogan podcast, talking about in San Diego how he was a part of the Air Force and how he saw a tic-tac shaped object go from like 600 feet above or like 6,000 feet above sea level to like 3 meters above sea level. And this is a dude in the military. They released the video, and he also said how he saw the ocean churning below, which has now added an additional fear to open water. Like I'll swim at the beach and I'll go swimming and stuff, but I do not like the idea of the ocean, like the open ocean, especially like scuba diving.
It is spooky. I've gone scuba diving before, and that's amazing. I really enjoy that, but open, large water still makes me nervous. I would never be on a beach while the sun is going down. I have gone into the water at night, but I don't know, something about the sun going down makes me afraid that the sharks are coming. But this fear of the deep is something icky that I'm familiar with for sure.
So now you add on top of that this like the claims of this dude from the military talking about how and they actually call them unidentified submersive objects, I think. Submersible objects.
USOs.
Yeah, so there's like a whole name, man. But that kind of that kind of transition. So I had a question. What would be worse, drowning to death or being buried alive?
I've thought about this, and I think drowning, man. I really think drowning would be better. I hate the feeling of drowning. I hate when I'm underwater, and even sometimes when you're coming up for water and you like open your mouth to breathe, but you do it like a millisecond too soon, and you just get like a nice feeling of lungs full of water. You know what I mean? Just this awful, terrible feeling. But I can't imagine what I would do conscious in that fucking casket. Oh my God. I would probably die of a heart attack. I would finish breathing all the oxygen in the casket.
I would try to suck up as much oxygen that I could as quickly as possible, overventilate and die, so I could die quicker than fucking being buried alive for that long amount of time. Because I think that
you'd go with buried alive, or you'd go with drowning. What would you go with?
It's hard to say.
My final answer, drowning.
Yeah, because like buried alive, like you could die from, or just it's extended period. Like are we talking in like a coffin? Because in that case, you can't even like move around. You might get claustrophobic, and that would be crazy. Or are we talking about like a bunker, like a minor situation where you're buried alive like that? You can still walk around, stretch, but you're gonna die. You're gonna go crazy as you're dying from lack of food, which takes a while. I think you can survive like a week or two without food, if you have water. So imagine, and then also if you're in a coffin,
water is the first limiting factor.
If you're in a coffin,
I had never thought about the walking around versus just a coffin. Go ahead.
If you're in a coffin, where are you going to pee at? Like
yourself. You're going to pee yourself because you're about to die anyway. I mean, you don't have that much.
Yeah, you're going to pee yourself. Shit, you might actually even drown you might be buried alive and then drown from the I think I would, as much as I hate to say it, I think I'd probably take drowning, because like you could probably force yourself to breathe in the water and then go unconscious and die. Yeah.
Both of those are so uncomfortable. I can't.
Dude, there was this thing I was watching on Netflix called like Spycraft or something, and they were talking about how back in the day, some country, maybe Soviets or something like that, they had some intelligence agents go to the bottom of the ocean. I think maybe in the 90s or something like that. They went to the bottom of the ocean in a submarine that was specially outfitted so that divers could get out underwater, and they knew where the transatlantic cable was that brought internet ability from America to other country, I guess to Europe or whatever, to connect us. And they sent a diver down there in the pitch black. It's with this wire that they're supposed to like wrap over the thing so that it would steal all the data through induction. And I was just thinking, like, imagine being that dude at the bottom of the ocean where this wire's at and you can't see anything. Even if you have a flashlight.
Because it's so deep, right? And the light only penetrates so far underwater. So you put your hands out in front of you 2 miles or even 1 mile probably underwater. You don't see your hand in front of you. There's no light. There's just no light. What the fuck? That's
terrifying.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's absolutely terrifying. Yeah, the ocean is a scary place, man. You know, it's weird. There's so much we haven't experienced there. I mean, we haven't even experienced what's beneath the crust of the ocean. We have theories, but there could be pockets underneath, you know.
Civilizations, lizard people, all of this could be in there, definitely.
Hey, there's some valid questions, man. Why did Admiral William H. Byrd or whatever, the pilot, why did he say that he flew, you know, over Antarctica?
The Earth. Yeah.
Why did he say that, man? Like,
probably because he did it. I think that's why you would say it. Why else would you say it, you know?
Why are countries not, why can't you visit Antarctica? Like, you know, you can certain places, but they don't let you, you know, everywhere.
You know,
and
why?
Also, why?
Well, because it's the Great Ice Wall, because the Earth is actually flat.
I don't know about flat, man. I don't know if the water just goes off the edge of nothing, but it honestly, there might be. I don't see it as being improbable that past some ice there is something that we haven't experienced. I don't think that is improbable at all, especially when you think about like all these shows, man, Hangar 51, like all these things talking about different races of aliens. The Canadian Prime Minister saying there's 8 different races or whatever. Like,
I remember that guy.
Yeah,
There's no way to know. There's no way to know what's under the ice. As the like tectonic plates shift and shit gets kind of pushed to the poles, I think it doesn't move that much anymore. So under the ice, there might be some really old geology, really old rocks, and perhaps there was a civilization, 20,000 years ago on Earth, and there could be some stuff there. I like the ancient alien stuff, and I could totally believe what the Maya kind of believed, that civilizations come in cycles. And so each civilization starts and ends at a specific time.
Yes. Dude, we'll have to do another episode because on this type of stuff. But I fully believe at 27 years old, I'm convinced that this Earth is a realm where energy / souls, whatever term you want to use, are pulled here to learn some sort of moral lesson. Or essentially, if you don't want to think of it as that, think of it as acquiring either positive or negative charges. Because, you have the concept of duality and the concept of yin and yang. I mean, there's opposing energies in life. So your goal is to figure out which ones are the right ones for you and for your soul's path and to go on that. So I'm fully convinced when you look at things like the pyramids, when you look at things like the Ice Age, when you look at things like how we're finding out there's evidence of civilization, there's like roads in the Amazon that are like millions of years old that shouldn't be there, or like that humans have been around for a lot longer than we think they have, or Stonehenge, or the Easter Island heads. Why is there more buried under the ground? Like, why is it a whole totem pole? Like, I think that this Earth, this realm, is a place, like you said, where there is literally cycle, where it's meant for things to come here, meant for there to be birth and then destruction. It's
and
not
again, and again.
Exactly. I think that's kind of what the deal is here. I don't know.
That's a valid theory. I mean, these are kind of philosophical texts. Whether you kind of like think about this or whether you think it is true or it isn't true, it doesn't have that huge of an impact on your actual practical life. So for those reasons, I'd say, yeah, man, I'm definitely that. I mean, it's screwed up, but reincarnation, it's not that I've ever like invested a lot into researching it or thinking about it, but there's always something kind of interesting about that to me. So maybe we can add that to the topic for the future podcast when we go real deep, on this one.
Oh yeah, dude. I'd love to. I would love to, man. So is there anything do you want to like tie it back to anything? I've thought about potentially splitting this up into 2 episodes. So like the first one would be like an interview with a European doctor,
Krusty
essentially.
Croc. Yeah.
Krusty Croc. And the second one would be more on like the sleep shit that we talked about, and the commercials. Also, real quick, I might edit this and put this at the beginning if I do split it up of the other one. What I wanted to kind of tie into, though, I don't think I actually really touched on about ads. And then
we kind of stayed off of that a little bit. Yeah, I also have to be somewhere in like 45 minutes.
Cool. Well, you want to go for maybe like 10 more minutes and then we'll call it
15-20. We can even go 15-20.
Word.
So
okay.
yes, 10 is fine. 10 is fine.
Okay. So with the whole ads thing, I've been having this idea recently in the past year that ads are non-consensual and it's very damaging. Like very like traumatizing in a sense. Now, before I go further, I want to say that me using the word non-consensual, I am not at any means taking away from non-consensual assaults and stuff like sexually that women go through, and even men in certain circumstances. That is a different thing completely. That's super serious. I have friends of family that I hear about this. You know, I can't even go around a corner without hearing about a woman being either sexually or assault or physically abused, and it really fucking hurts. Really hurts my soul to hear that. But the thing is that I'll be like at my second job or something cooking, and I'll put on a YouTube playlist, and it's maybe 12 songs. 12 songs, or maybe it's a video on Runescape or something like that, Ancient Aliens. If I'm watching like a 20-minute long video on Egypt, there will oftentimes every 3 minutes be an ad. And what happens is if you're laying in bed and you don't skip the first one, it'll go to a second one, but the second one will be longer oftentimes. Like they'll learn that you're not clicking off the ads. I've woken up falling asleep to a Rogan episode, and there was no shit like a 30-minute ad playing. And I've talked to I think Bake about this. Yeah, like seriously, I woke up and there was like a 20 or 40-minute ad. It was ridiculous. They literally took advantage of the fact that I was asleep or not able to skip, and they just made it progressively worse. And this is not cool. And this is why I'm saying it's non-consensual. Because it like at a very far like they're going too far.
Obviously, like consent were something totally different than, like you said, the question of consent in a sexual situation or any other kind of situation.
100%.
You're absolutely correct in that these ads are something that I do not want. I specifically do not want them. I've also thought about this idea, right? I pay monthly to be able to access the internet on my phone. I pay for my 4G, right?
Yeah.
But there's ads on the 4G. So I go to a website on my phone, there's going to be ads on that website. So is my limited data, are my, 4 gigabytes a month going to display an ad to me? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I've never even thought about that, man. Because, dude, if you're watching YouTube, that's fucking true. If you're watching YouTube and you have a certain limitation, like 10 gigs a month, 4 gigs a month of data, how much of that 10-second, 15-second ad,
it's taking up maybe 30 megs, maybe it's low, but you're going to see 50 ads,
This is where I want to kind of add on to that. So they not only are they ads should, I think, probably be around to help for revenue purposes, but just don't go insane with it. And that's what YouTube has done. And that is where I find a problem. It's not even just YouTube. It used to be like SoundCloud before I think it was SoundCloud before I bought the pro version or something like that. It used to be like every 3 songs, there'd be like a fucking ad, and it would just make things. So what I'm saying is though, it's gone past like them annoying you to literally knowing they're annoying you. And I'll tell you why, because I was listening to YouTube recently, trying to get through like a 12-song playlist, one album, and there was an ad every single song. And one of the things, I think it was a Google Home device. I was listening to it, and there was this ad that kept coming on like, we know you. It's like, oh, is that another ad? Yep. It is another ad.
Oh, I hate those. My God.
So like this is what I'm trying to like get people, to kind of listen to and start paying attention. They know that you are irritated. They know that they are harming you in a sense. not physically, but they're causing an emotion of distress and annoyance. And what that does, they're trying to annoy you into buying their product. But it's gone so far that's why I'm saying it's like non-consensual, because they're literally assaulting you. They're making you. It'd be like, oh, come on, babe, come on, like, come on, just buy YouTube price.
Yeah.
And they're like, here, have another drink.
No. Listen, no means no.
Yes, YouTube, no fucking means no. I'll watch one ad. I'll watch maybe 2 ads, but don't give me. I try to watch an hour-long video on ancient Egypt, and you have it set up for or RuneScape, and there's literally 15 ads through it. Like, don't do that, man. You know what you're doing.
I wonder how Kendrick Lamar feels about the fact that I can't listen to Good Kid, Mad City from start to finish without somebody trying to sell me toilet paper, like in between the songs. You know what I'm saying? That I would not be cool with that as Kendrick. I'm not him, obviously, but like that is not really it. You know, that's not what he was trying to make.
Yeah, it kind of kills the vibe, man. When you're like at a party or you're with your boys in the car, and then all of a sudden you're listening to Kendrick, and then you know, Money Trees are the perfect place. But next thing you hear is like the Charmin ad. But yeah, no, man, it's gotten to the point. Like, I remember there's like an Arby's commercial saying, "We know you better than you know yourself," and like these things of like, YouTube was like, oh, you know, we know that this is annoying you, or like, is your baby can't sleep but it falls asleep best to like this thing, and without ads, like ad-free interruption. They know what they're doing. They know your life is way more enjoyable. So they're basically like, it's almost in a sense like they're stimulating like a pain or a discomfort in order for you to make, like, the prodding you essentially until you finally make that jump. But they increase the amount of the prod. They haven't decreased in ads, and they haven't decreased on annoyances. They've only made things more annoying. And I really think that's super damaging, because if corporations right now that we're giving all these powers to, we're praising them up, putting them on a pedestal like gods, you know, Amazon, YouTube, like Nike, if we're putting them up on pedestals, and at the same time, they're doing things to actively cause distress in our life.
Yeah.
What does that fucking say?
It's insane.
Where's it going to go?
Nowhere good. Nowhere good, and a lot farther. Something truly, like you said, something that's truly like almost too powerful for us to comprehend happens between marketing, psychology, and technology. Ads, the purpose of an ad, right, is to display your product, to promote that product or service or whatever, right? That's not the purpose. That's not really what's happening when Google is like listening to the audio from my phone to recommend me to buy cat food because I had a conversation with somebody about my new cat. That's not the same thing as an advertisement. It's something a little bit different. You know what I mean?
That is awesome. And you just made me think of something that I've thought about in the past. So so you type in toilet paper in Google, and the information they sell that information to corporations. What happens with the information if you're a person that types in things like bomb making or like child porn or something like that? You type in something bad. Because Google still sells your information. So what corporations are they selling that information to? But also, like, I had something to tie that into with, so porn, for example. I've noticed with the past, like, 4 or 5 years or something like that, the word, like, I'm sure it was probably always around since the 70s, like, oh, hey, daddy. But like the word daddy got really popularized. It wasn't popular when I was in high school at all. Like, it wasn't like, I graduated 2012. Then it had this resurgence. Then, like, you go on Pornhub, you go on XNXX, you go on any of these websites. And if you go to the top, the hottest ones or the newest featured content, the homepage, even just the homepage, the most prevalent things that show up are incest porn, are like some sort of like a facial like abuse, or like some sort of like some weird shit, dude. It's always like mom and son, or like dad and stepdaughter. And like, where does that lead to? That's another thing that, like, with the whole ad thing, like, I'm not against the idea of porn. I just really want to urge caution, because I've started to think about this. If the majority of people are like being influenced to think that like incest or like face abuse, like face slapping, like these things that are trending, like this aggression. If that's what AI thinks that humans want, and that's what the data does show, where are we going with that?
Yeah.
That's have you ever thought about that?
That's crazy. I've heard like arguments about, you know, what pornography is society, and we should definitely have maybe even a bigger discussion about that, because there's a lot of points here that are both, you know, positive and negative. So that's, porn is a big topic. And I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a millennial male that didn't struggle with porn addiction at some point in his life. I remember I was reading that some researchers were trying to do research on the effects of pornography, but they couldn't find control groups. They couldn't find people who didn't watch porn.
Yeah, they would have to go to like some third, like kind of like Sentinel Island or something like that.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. But
I mean, look at the Unabomber, dude. Ted Kaczynski or some of those serial killers had placed that, like, they probably use that as an excuse. All I'm saying is, guys, is if the things that are trending are like some weird shit or like some ultra violent shit, and that's what AI is reading. Okay, well, people must want women to be abused, or people must want like this. Like, that's how the AI is going to look at the data. And, you know, you look at Japan, they have so many weird sexual things because a lot of times the men are so suppressed and they don't get the chance to interact with real women.
Everybody, not just the men, right? Everybody's so like suppressed because it's, again, another civilization that we were talking about, society, than what we're used to here in the West.
Oh man, did I hear you say that you probably got to get going?
Yeah, man. Sorry, I am in a bit of a rush here. It's just so easy to talk, man. We could really push this forever. But yeah,
it was awesome, dude. Like, I really had a good time. You're really interesting. I really hope we can talk more. We'll have some other topics lined up. I really want to hear a little bit more about nutrition. We could talk a little bit more about that. I got some friends that are working out now, and it's important for everyone to look at, no matter if you put on weight or if you don't, because like I said, you don't know what the insides of your body look like. But thank you for coming on, man. Really, I had a great time. I look forward to more talks. Anything you want to close with? You want to shout out anything? Or?
Just thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to get to know you guys on the server. Forward to way more of these good talks, man.
Haha. Hell yeah, guys. Well, thank you for listening. As always, I love you guys. It's super cool that people around the world, just like Krusty Croc and I here today, can sit down and talk about anything from Rogan all the way to Runescape and everything in between. And that's the whole point of this show here, is to touch on a couple things, but really just talk to people, man. Talk to your neighbors. Don't get your opinion based off of what Twitter says or based off what the TV tells you to think. You know, talk to each other. You know, that's how you learn about people and your community, as you talk to your neighbors and you talk to friends and stuff like that. So anyways, all right, man. Thank you again, and look forward to next time. Have a good day.